The name's Mayday. I wield a guitar. And he is...
Zook.
And he plays the...
Drums.
Punk Big Junction. That's who we are. And we're here to stop NSR from controlling everything.
There's only one music in demand right now, and that is EDM.
The people of Final City deserve to know what rock is about. It's time we fight EDM with the power of rock. The music revolution starts right now.
I am DJ Subatomic Supernova. What have you done today, simpletons?
You're disrupting our music revolution, man. Let's get this over with.
Circus ends now, 1010.
Maintain Operation Party all night!
You ready, Zook?
Yeah.
A regular band. And then...
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Shacknews Twitch channel for this very special Thursday night / Friday morning edition of the Shack stream. We got our host here, Blake Morse and Greg Burke here to explain to you why tonight's stream is so special. What's up, guys?
Oh, hello there, Chris, the faceless voice that's just floating around in my ears constantly. It's good to hear from you again. I'm Blake Morse, reviews editor for Shacknews.com, and I am joined by today's co-host, Gregory Burkleton Burke, our video editor, and we are fortunate enough to be joined by the music director of No Straight Roads, my buddy Falk. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good.
All right, and we've also got the co-founder and creative director of Metronomik, Dime. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. So today we're here to talk about your upcoming game, No Straight Roads. So why don't we just do that? Why don't we just go ahead and dive right in. Tell us what's the story of No Straight Roads? Like what are we doing? Why are we here? Who are we? All that good stuff.
We're here.
Oh, okay. So it started in 2017, where my cousin Wan Hazmi and we started the company Metronomik. Unfortunately, Wan Hazmi couldn't be here because he got hospitalized yesterday, which is a big shock for all of us. But he's doing well so far. We got photos of him on his hospital bed, giving a thumbs up, so he's all okay. So that's good. So the game. So we started in 2017. And I think we are always very passionate about music, so we want to definitely incorporate that in all of our products, So before 2017, Hazmi and I have been working in Japan for almost 10 years. Hazmi has worked in Square Enix, and I've worked in various Capcom projects, and we say that, okay, after this, we want to start our own company and make it more music-centric, So Hazme, he's a very big. What is the genre?
Rhythm game?
Rhythm game? Yeah, sorry, I don't play that much anymore. So he's a big fan of that, and he always has the concern that not really concern, but it's always a thing where whenever he plays a rhythm game at the arcades or something with his friends, the problem is that when he plays it, his friends just watch, and to them the game is it's kind of there's a hurdle to get over. It's kind of intimidating. He always
Or
say, "Hey, yeah," he said like, "Hey, come play with me," and all of them said, "No, no, no, we'll just watch." So
is this like,
he
are we talking like Dance Dance Revolution games?
yes, all the
Okay.
B-money games and stuff, like most of
Yeah.
even me as well, whenever I follow him to the arcades, and I'll just stand behind and watch and say, "Hey, come join me." I'm like, no, it's okay. That is really not my kind of game. So
Yeah.
that is something that we want to kind of like broaden that niche to make a game that is kind of like accessible to everybody. We don't want this. It's a shame that we don't want to kind of like funnel rhythm games is only for this kind of small niche. We want to make, if you like music, you should be able to enjoy our game. That's kind of like our philosophy for this first game. So it's the game is not a rhythm game, but the bosses on all of the enemies in No Straight Roads actually has a rhythmic pattern to them. So
Mhm.
as long as you listen to the music and then you understand how the music is, then you can kind of anticipate what the boss is gonna do on the next phase or something. For example, like when you listen to the music and then there's the chorus coming in, and so when the chorus comes in, it's like the bam, this is where the chorus comes in. So we try to kind of like take that system and put it into the game where whenever there's a chorus, then the boss will do this kind of attack. So the players subconsciously or even consciously understand that they know what to expect based on the music of the game.
Nice. So you actually play as musicians in the game as well, right?
Yes.
Yes. So who are these musicians,
Okay,
and
so
what are they up to?
okay, so that was the history of the game. Now we can talk about the game itself, which is No Straight
Mhm.
Roads. It's the story of Mayday and Zook. They are an indie rock duo, and they live in this city called Vinyl City. So in this city, in this world actually, music is power. So whoever has like the best music controls the city. So in Vinyl City, it's being controlled by this company called No Straight Roads, or we just call it NSR usually. So they are an EDM company. They are an EDM empire, right?
Yeah.
So there is a kind of like a deep backstory. If you play the game, you can kind of understand what is going on. But basically, they control the city, and rock has not been it's kind of forgotten in the city, and in fact it was banned recently in the city. So this is kind of like a little bit of it feels like an oppression of creative thinking. So Mady and Zook, they are the small fry in this game, and they are trying to be the rock rebels to fight the EDM people in this city.
Nice. I can relate. I can totally relate. Like they're like the bands posting all their gigs on the Facebook page, and then like none of
Yeah,
their
yeah,
friends are showing up, and everyone's going to the club and listening to the DJs, and
mm.
they're like, no, we got to do something about this. I can respect that. I like them. I like that they
at, the,
get off their butts and start brawling.
at the same time, we keep getting these comments frequently where some people are are upset or hate us for making EDM as the villain, and
Ah,
they have to understand that that's definitely not the case, because the fact that we have so many good EDM music because of Falk and his team, we put so much love into the EDM tracks in the game, shows how much love we have for EDM. It's just a transport for the script to work in the game. It doesn't mean that
yeah.
we think EDM is bad. We love both rock and EDM, and that's why this game is filled with a lot of rock tracks and EDM tracks.
Mhm. Yeah.
One of the guys working on the music, his name is James Landino. So he had a tweet about one of the trailers, and it said, come defeat evil DJs like myself in this game," and everyone's all laughing about it. But yeah, I can attest to that. Like, I am very, very much a fan of almost every genre except country. And it's
being a
been
boss battle in real life. That makes sense.
so
sense.
it's been an honor to be able to bring out the best in what we feel in all the different genres represented in the game. So yeah, like Diane said, it is a narrative framing, and but that being said,
Yeah,
uh,
you don't want to put bad music in your game.
Exactly.
You
yeah.
know? Yeah.
If we have an agenda, we will make the EDM music really bad, right? But
Yeah.
that's not what we want.
No. I mean, EDM could do that on its own if it wants to. It doesn't need your help.
No.
What
I
are you
mean,
fan?
there's bad music in all genres out
Yes.
there, but
Yes.
yeah, it's humorous to me because I mean sometimes like we were talking before the show, like I play a lot of music, and sometimes it definitely feels like EDM is just taken over and nobody really goes to like shows to rock out anymore so much. So I if anything, this is going to be a chance for me to vent my own frustrations. So I respect that. Yeah, but no, I've actually, I played the demo at PAX, I think
Oh,
last
cool.
year. Yeah, and no, it was grooving. Like I always appreciate when there's a focus on the soundtrack in a game, like just personally, because I love music so much. So games where like you've got rhythms and grooves, and like mix that with like cool combat, like yeah, that's super fun because this is also like as much as there's like rhythm and stuff to like the boss fights. This is also kind of a brawler, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So like you're gonna be doing stuff other than just like beating up DJs, right?
We try to make it kind of like it's an action brawler like Devil May Cry
Mm,
or Nier Automata and stuff. At the same time, we do understand that people who look into this product, I think a lot of them are into music or rhythm games in general. So
mhm,
apart from having it like a regular brawler, we do have a system in the game where it rewards players for having a sense of rhythm or something. So we have this pairing system in the game where, unlike other attacks where you can just avoid freely and stuff, the pairing system, how it works is that it's usually on the beat itself, kind of like pam 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 attack, something like that. So for
Yeah.
this system, on that bit itself, you can actually, instead of avoiding it, you kind of like place yourself in front of that attack and press the attack button on the bit to kind of like reflect the damage back to the boss. So we give the options to the players. If you are intimidated by all this rhythm game mechanic, you can just avoid as usual. But for the more musically inclined people, then they can have this option of being more on the beat, kind of more like a rhythm game to them.
nice, awesome. So
I
like,
Please talk about some of your inspirations for like the design, because I get a very like brutal legend type of vibe, but it's obviously a lot more colorful and a lot more like modern than brutal legend was. Brutal legend was like a early 80s, late
Yeah.
70s rock, classic rockathon, and this is more of like a mix of kind of everything.
Yeah. A broader scope than Brutal Legend. Double Fine Studios and Team Schafer. I think Haz and I, we are huge fans of the old Team Schafer 90s adventure games. Those are one of the inspirations. Not only just the visuals, but also the quirk and the humor behind them. But I think a lot of fans caught this already. The most obvious visual inspiration comes from the year 2000 during the Dreamcast age, where you have games like Jet Set Radio and Space Channel 5, Sly
yeah,
Cooper.
ooh la
So
la.
You're speaking
Yeah,
my
exactly.
language now.
Those games are not, they don't have much presence as they used to in the year 2000, so we had a, a lot of fond memories on those kind of visuals. So that's what we're trying to go for. And also because it's music game, and we want, as you say, compared to Brutal Legends, our game is kind of like way more colorful, which is, we want that to be kind of like the defining characteristic of our game. It's like, it's music, it's colorful, everything is bright, and we want to make it. Yeah, so that is our intention to go with.
Nice.
I have a
especially-
I have a bit of
Go
a
ahead.
two-part question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
When tuning the game for difficulty and stuff like that, is there anything that goes into it other than shifting the beats per minute on a given encounter? And if that is something that you do, does the composer have any input on that as far as changing up the music that may have been delivered originally?
Well, do you want to get that first?
Sorry, so to understand the question, is there, I guess the term for it would be, what kind of dynamic implementation is there in the game?
Well, just I'm assuming the game gets played multiple times before release, trying to decide, what's too difficult, what's too easy. Is that a matter of just changing the BPM of the song, or are there other considerations that go into that? Just in general.
Right. This has been a very interesting project to work on a technical level as well as a compositional one, because as mentioned, there's a very strong correlation between the game design and the music design for this game, more so than just triggering tracks in the background. So we kind of have an idea of how much that how frequent attacks might be, and that's all good on paper, but the real litmus test is after we put it in the game and then we test it out, and then that's when we are informed if it's too hard or too easy. So in the company we have a lot of jump in here if you want to as well. We have a lot of people in the company who are like hardcore gamers, and we also have a lot which are casual gamers, and just that gives us a really broad range of when we play the game together, we can see like if there's parts where people are struggling, or parts which like the hardcore people are fine, but the casual players are not fine, or even stuff like, oh, this game this part of the game is uh like nauseating because of the camera movement and stuff like that. All that really comes down to testing and iteration. But to answer your question, I think yes, we have that original design of, okay, we want attacks to be like bam, 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 bam. If that's too much, then we just have to take some of them out. And sometimes that goes back into modifying the music as well. And the process of creation of music in this game has been very, very iterative as well. Like we would see what works and what doesn't, and if we can modify it just on the gameplay side, that's fine. If we need to go back and modify the music itself to make it less active or more active, we do that as well.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, so it's been a headache, let me tell you. But I think a lot of the results do speak for themselves.
Yeah, is this your first project that you've worked on where the music was like disintegrated into the gameplay?
I mean, it's a little cheating, but I've done a lot of rhythm game stuff as well. Like I contributed to I'm not sure if anyone remembers, there's a very old PC rhythm game called Otujan. I used to be audio director for that, so I would design like the gameplay for a lot of the content there. More recently, we contributed a few tracks for Citus, which is a very popular mobile rhythm game. So there is a little bit of that skill set that transfers into like, okay, what's too much or too little? But at the same time, that is very, very niche and very, very much a rhythm game thing, whereas this it's more of plugging that experience into an action adventure game. So yeah, there's still a bit of a learning curve for us.
Now, can you guys talk
Nice.
about like you mentioned like EDM is like the city's run by EDM, but are there other bosses and like genres that can control subsections of the city? Like is disco dead in this world, or is it very much alive in certain areas of the city?
Well, generally, the game is about rock versus EDM. Although we did reveal one character that is kind of like not really EDM, but Well, this is kind of like a musical topic, so Falk, I think it's best if you want to tackle this because it's not just the genre, but the countless subgenres that comes under
Right.
EDM. Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess a lot of this also ties into the narrative of the game. And again, so there's a music and a gameplay integration, but at the same time, we wanted a gameplay and narrative integration, narrative and music integration, and so on and so forth. So, like Dime said, this is a game about rock versus EDM, and I just noticed when we were talking about it earlier, it's a rock revolution and then the EDM empire, which is like alliteration. I'm not sure if that was intentional. I found it really cute. so the different bosses in the game do represent different subgenres of EDM, and even within those bosses, there are a couple of different remixes. And the way that we kind of thought about this in terms of musical sense is we wanted a bass version that represents each of the artists in the game that under this EDM label. For example, we have shown DJ at Subatomic Supernova, and obviously he's a DJ, like that's his name as well. So he spins a disco, and if you played the PAX demo, I'm not sure if that was DJ.
I think
I think we had both there, right? But
I
yeah,
think so.
it's a very deep blue background, and the guy he literally spins like the solar system around him. So that would be the DJ, and then so each of the basic versions of the music represent the artist. They have a heavier remix, which represents the influence of No Straight Roads, the EDM empire. And then there's also a rock version of each of those tracks. And all of these, they actually line up so that in game we can swap out the music as the game progresses, and then as you progress through the boss, you do damage to it. You start to win, and we wanted to reflect that feeling of winning by also like swapping more of the music into rock as well. So there's a lot of that kind of switching in the game.
Making a lot of stems.
Making a lot of sense. A lot of sense. So
Yeah.
just beyond the fact that there are different versions, the different versions actually can integrate together as well. Like you might have the melody from the rock version playing with the the rhythm of the EDM version, and then the background of the bass version and stuff like that. It really depends on the context of what the bosses are doing.
Yeah. That's cool. I mean, and this is kind of more like a composer question, but like, I know when I'm like making stuff, I'm just using like Chord Gadget or something as a step sequencer. But like a lot of times I'll just keep I'll just keep adding on and on and on, and then I'll like be like, oh man, I've really gotten away from the core of what I was doing. Like, is it tough? Is it tough to know when enough is enough on a project like this, or is it kind of like you have to do so much that it kind of balances it out?
It's actually a larger topic here where I guess just zooming out a little from that, there is a difference between music that's composed standalone and is meant for listening, radio music, band music mostly. And on the other side, you have music which is composed for media or multimedia music, which is uh, theoretically meant to support the media that it's playing with. And I'm not sure if you would agree with me, where Japanese games, they tend to harness the power of music written as standalone. Like a lot of RPGs, for example, they have the music elevates the experience and it's like its own identity. And obviously, we think of stuff like Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts, Persona, like the music is so much of an identity. Whereas Western games tend to pull it back a little and they write as an underscore, which supports the game. And obviously, this is a big generalization. There's a lot of really standout Western music as
No,
well.
but I know what you're talking about. I mean, just like the soundtrack to
So,
Halo is like Gregorian chant or something,
right.
Yeah. No, I totally get what you're
So,
talking about.
for this project, obviously the game does have a lot of Japanese influence because a lot of us have worked on Japanese projects. And it's a balance between figuring out how much the music has to stand out and how much it has to pull back because it's drawing too much attention, if that makes sense. Like if you are paying too much attention to, like, for example, guitar solo, and then you're missing other cues which is important for reacting to the game, whether it's visual cues or like even dialogue. There's a lot of dialogue sprinkled throughout the boss battles, and if the music gets in the way of that, then that is a problem. But at the same time, the game is based on music, so it's always this fine balancing act.
For sure.
It's interesting that you say that because I'm trying to think. I'm thinking of all the like U.S. the Western games that I like, and you're right. The music is more of like an underscore to complement the game, and all the Japanese games, like you mentioned, like every RPG, it's that music is the main attraction as you're killing something or fighting something. You know, it's not just an undertone to make you feel sad or scared. It's actual that is the main attraction.
It definitely elevates the event, like
A
whatever events.
lot of I'm also a fan of a lot of indie game soundtracks. I honestly I listen to so much stuff that I've not even played a game, and I don't have time to play like every game that I want to, unfortunately nowadays. But oh man, like a very obvious example is like Undertale. Everyone knows Mega Mania. Yeah, there's a lot of Western composers that dive into this style of writing music as well. Don't get me wrong. And also that being said, because a lot of Western games they are very dialogue heavy. If you have the music come on too strong, it detracts from the experience that's being told. It makes sense. And I would say that there are a few Japanese games which I do feel that the music does detract from dialogue, depending on how it's used as well. So again, it's a very fine balancing act.
But that is true, though. Yeah, a lot of the Japanese game that I play is just like when the music comes up, you get really, really pumped up. You know, I'm thinking of like, I mean, different genre, but you know, like Phoenix Wright or like even Danganronpa. You know, every time there's like the climax of the game, the music is just really, really good. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just curious, while you've been developing No Straight Roads, what have you been listening to? Like, what are some of the musical influences?
I want to know Fal's answer for this. This is I wonder. Yeah, is this something that? Please tell us, Fal.
I want to know I want to hear it from both of you. I want to know about
Okay,
both of you.
so just a little bit of context. I actually do work on a lot of different projects at once. I'm actually part of a music production company called Soundtrack, and No Straight Roads is one of the projects that we're involved in. So theoretically, we are working on a lot of other game stuff as well. But if specifically, I believe this is asking of like what's the musical inspiration for No Straight Roads, right? That's
Yeah,
more of where the question is.
totally.
So while I do have an idea, and Dime and Hasmir, they do have ideas of what might go in the game, and obviously the bosses, they have their character designs and their background written already. I think it's a good time to mention that I'm not alone in this. I'm a music director. I've written some of the music in the game, but we are working with an incredible team of composers. I mentioned James Landino earlier. There's also Pitchman, who goes by Funk Fiction, and Andy Tunstall. So we got our start. Our first project that we did together was Sonic fan games.
Oh,
Like,
nice.
yeah, I was
But
actually
that's
doing.
some of the funkiest music ever is like Sonic soundtracks.
Yeah, and that's how we met actually, and then we went on to do commercial projects after that. And so to answer the question, a lot of it is we have this brief. I do have a little bit of a guiding hand, but a lot of the time it's okay. You guys, you know what this boss is about. If you need any more explanation, I will chip in. But what do you think this boss is? And then the stuff that's come back has always just blown us away. So it pretty much is a collaborative effort. And yes, sometimes the stuff that comes back misses the mark because not enough context is given, or in the interim, some design with regards to maybe the gameplay or the narrative has changed, so we need to tweak stuff. But it really, like, these three guys, they are really, really good at what they do in terms of like genres. Andy, the stuff he writes for rock really blows me away. Pitchman and James, they actually do DJ as well, aside from the composition stuff. So they know this kind of stuff. And yeah, I'm pretty much blown away by what they write for this game.
You know, it's interesting you say Sonic because that's also like a series that, especially Sonic 3, like there were I think a dozen composers on that game. Like
Oh,
over 12
Oh,
different musicians working on that score for the single
right,
game, and it gets
wow.
very. I mean, you get a lot you get a really diverse plethora of music, but also you can't really narrow it down to just one person.
right. Also, just for a little bit of additional context, I worked on Sonic Mania, so I do know a little bit about that little slice of the industry, and unfortunately, I can't really talk about it
No,
for
no
pretty
worries.
obvious reasons. But
Yeah, no, we're
Sonic
here to
Mania
talk
2
about.
confirmed. You heard it here, folks.
yeah, wouldn't that be nice? But,
Right, more work
Maybe
for
we
you.
can arrange a stream in the future where we air all the dirty laundry about the
No.
Sonic composition universe.
So could
but
you
no,
guys talk
you're
Yeah.
about
absolutely right. I do. Sorry.
Right.
I do really. A lot of projects that I enjoy tend to be composed by multiple people as well. Like obviously there are like the heavyweights in the industry like Nobuo Uematsu. Everyone kind of knows of him and knows the projects he's done.
Yeah.
But I personally feel that the strongest soundtracks are the ones, like you said, where there's a lot more than one person contributing to it, and it's basically greater than the sum of its parts. And obviously a lot of that does come down to good direction and good management and a good like overall glue for the soundtrack because it can get very disjointed otherwise. A good example I can think of is Xenoblade. Like that had a whole bunch of composers on it as well.
Yeah, I feel like you can
Yeah.
like if you're a solo composer, sometimes you can you crutch on certain themes or sounds consistently without having someone else saying, "Hey, this is you're using a little too much of X or you're a little too much of Y. You want to change it up a bit, but you don't have that feedback because you're a solo composer." So
Right. And coming back to the whole remix idea of the game, so we are basically remixing each other's music as well. So that's interplay of ideas being built there. And I like one of the things I really can't wait for people to experience are like the rock arrangements that Andy comes up with and all of us contribute to because like when I listen to the bass track, it's like how is this going to work as a rock remix? I have actually asked myself that a few times, and then Andy comes and is like, "Holy cow, this is so good!" So yeah, I really can't wait for the game to be out just because of that. Well, obviously a lot of other factors, but this just like I said, it just blows my mind. Uh, wait, today is the
Yeah,
26th, right? Like the original
yeah,
release
you're
date
in the
would have been
future.
a
You're
few
in the
days,
future. You're a day ahead of us. We're 25th, but yeah, you're on the 26th.
right? Like the original release date was very soon, but unfortunately, we do have to wait a little longer than that.
Now it's
Yeah.
very, very soon.
I have
Fog,
one
you didn't.
more. Oh, excuse me. Go ahead.
Sorry, but you didn't answer the question though. What do you listen to while working on this project?
Right. So I mean,
What show tunes?
just from the fact that the four of us have done certain projects together, uh, to a certain extent, our style of music does reflect that. And at the same time, I was talking to talking to Hasmir about the game, like the setting and what the characters are. We had a lot of brainstorming sessions about for example, what would the DJ play, and should it be like old school disco, or is it like Tiesto era, like EDM, trance, that kind of stuff, or should it be like dubstep, or like complex throw? Just like which era should each of the bosses be, and then also like what kind of subcultures do we want to represent? Is there a positive message that we can send out with the game, and what we're including in it and stuff like that? But again, that doesn't really answer the question. I'm not sure how much. So when we're talking about like
Oh,
music based on the bosses and their background, I'm pretty sure that if we go into that, it might turn into like spoilers for the narrative. So I'm not sure how much we should go down that route. Dine, if you say we are good to go, then I will go.
Well, if it's spoilers, I mean,
Okay, here's one that we've talked about and we've revealed. So there is a piano kid, a prodigy who plays piano really well. And obviously, I mentioned that the bass versions represent the artist, and then there's a heavier remix that represents Nose Rick Rhodes. So for this piano, a really big influence actually was Bemani music. As some of the stuff from 2DX, one of the rhythm games where there's a lot of like piano trance in the game. Specifically stuff by DJ Taka. I'm not sure if
Okay.
anyone knows what
Piano
I'm talking
trance.
about.
You kind of lost me at piano trance. Like, if I'm being honest.
And obviously, also like we wanted to just have a little bit of I would say it's like a cameo or a tribute to the stuff we've done in the past in Japanese game music. And the piano kit, her bass version has a lot of Final Fantasy Kingdom Hearts influence as well.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't think that much is a spoiler because the music has been in trailers and demos out there already. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. But now, Dime, what have you been listening? What did you listen to? What were your musical influences as you've been developing No Straight Roads?
Huh. Yeah, it's a bit on the spot. I don't. Maybe I'm a.
Or what are some of your favorite bands? Like, who are some people that influence you in general musically?
One of my favorite bands are Franz Ferdinand and also Queen. So those are like my two top favorite ones. Radiohead as well, actually.
Awesome. No, those are all very good bands. Those are all excellent
I
choices.
haven't heard from Franz Ferdinand for a long time. I still love them though, but I haven't heard much from them recently. So
Man, I was working at coffee shops when Franz Ferdinand was super popular, and I would play their CDs on my way home.
I love their songs, man. They're so catchy, I think they did an interview where they say that, we don't care if it sounds pop or something, we just want to make a song for people to dance. And I kind of like that principle that they hold on to.
Yeah, I respect that. Also, sorry guys, this is my cat, Princess Tobeans. She just wanted to come be part of it. She doesn't have any questions, I don't think.
I just noticed it.
Yeah, but she's good. She likes rock and roll. She likes Queen. I definitely feel the Queen influence in some of this stuff. Like I'm a big Queen fan too. Like they're one of the best rock bands ever made. So
yeah, it is.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. So yeah, like are there any like little nods to any of those bands or anything in the game?
Yeah, that's a good question. This has always been something that we always want to put in, some small nods here and there.
Because we've talked about like the EDM aspects, we've talked about the electronic music aspects, but we haven't talked too much about the rock and roll yet.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah.
What
It's a little bit of a how would I phrase this? It does get into spoiler territory as well. Like the EDM side of it is because what you see is what you get. Like in a lot of the media that Metronomik has put out for the game, you can see like the silhouettes of the bosses, and then you can speculate on like who these bosses are and all that. But the rock side of it, I guess the ones that is pretty much front and center are like Bunk Bit Junction themselves, Mayday and Zook, their band. So that's the name of the band in the game that they are in. And that much is obvious, and their sound is basically encapsulated within the main theme of the game. But talking about the other rock stuff in the game might come into stuff that we do want players to experience when they're playing the game for themselves. Did that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Although we did, I think we did put more focus on the EDM just because there's like the bosses. Most of the bosses are from the NSR themselves, So we did put a lot of emphasis on which, like what each character is supposed to represent, what kind of EDM subgenres,
Right. And also like when you're just walking around town, so this is another thing that I think Dime and Haas realized in the recent few weeks is that people are already surprised when we said, oh, there's a city, like you can explore a city, and then it's not just a boss rush game. And obviously, like narratively, this city is controlled by an EDM empire. So even when you're just walking around, there's a lot of like electronic playing. Like there is a lot of rock as well, but the context is that the city is a territory of this conglomerate which just loves to play EDM.
It's
Hmm.
play on our society. If we're not careful, EDM will take over. Is that what you're trying to? Is that the
I,
subtext? We got to be careful out there, music goers.
Greg, Greg,
Social commentary in the game.
Greg is like our least musically oriented staff member. like, like he
Not
called,
musically inclined.
he called Missy Elliott Mrs. Elliott when we were doing
For the
our podcast.
longest time, I still call her
Yeah.
that way.
So
It's just
like
how,
Greg,
Oh,
yeah.
I'm
so
actually
that's why Greg hasn't realized that EDM has already taken over. Like,
I'm part of the problem. Do you see what happened? I need
yeah.
to play this game so I can open my eyes to the truth.
No, man. I don't know. I love the DIY rock scene. I'm part of the local punk scene out here in the Bay Area. So I can definitely feel that, like feel that battle where it's like your music's totally underground and everyone's paying attention to like the latest
Yeah,
I'm not gonna diss any DJs or
oh,
anything like
yeah.
that.
Well, I
Yeah.
don't feel that as a bad thing though.
Mhm.
Some things come to be popular, and some things go
Yeah.
under, and it kind of cycles through. And I think that is fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that applies to even games or movies. People like to complain about
Yeah.
summer flicks being too stupid and why are they so popular. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that the indie art films will disappear. At the same time, it kind of makes those films more special for the fans. So yeah,
That's fair. No, that's fair, but I want that EDM money.
Is it like
Maybe I'm all
is
about the art, but I still gotta eat. That's
this
So
kind
got
of
to get
parallel
paid.
to people asking like where is the anime which is an isekai nowadays? It's so hard to
Mhm,
find.
yeah.
Everything is isekai. Oh,
Here's
I
but
should be mentioning. I should be obliged to mention that speaking of the music in the game and then like what the rock sounds like, what different bosses sound like. We do have a mini soundtrack that's going to be releasing, if I'm not mistaken, in a couple of days. So yeah, this is a
Nice.
cue to basically, if you want to check out some of the music in the game, as it is rather than part of like the gameplay footage and all that. There's stuff coming out soon.
yeah, please
Nice.
do check it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that just gonna be online, or are you releasing like final or?
So there is a collector's edition of the game that is up for pre-order, and it's got a vinyl for a cross section of the soundtrack. But no, this would be a different, like just a teaser of the music in the game, and it's
Okay.
going to be online. Yeah, it's going to be on our social channels as well.
Mm.
If
Nice.
I may butt in with two questions, one of them stupid, one of them serious. I'd like to start with the stupid one first. Our heroes in the game talk a big show about how much they care about rock and roll, and that's their lifestyle. And from the parts of the game I've seen, I've yet to see them dragging around any amplifiers or cabs or arguing about. They're not arguing about where they're going to practice or things like that, and that feels like that's the most rock and roll thing there is.
Well, first of
Uh,
all, like fans never practice. No, no,
Diane,
no.
do you maybe you want to talk about the hub of the game, like
The
the
hub.
home base?
Yeah, it was not shown much in the game, but after every boss fight, you do have a hub. So they live in the sewers because they are underground. So they are literally living, their sewers is under there. So in the hub, there are. Wait, what is in the hub? I'm suddenly drawing blank now. Um,
Home base.
So,
I mean,
so
I mean, there is. Sorry, there is the gameplay side to it, but also from the narrative side. I think from my side, because I'm the story is my responsibility. One thing that we want to make sure in the game is that we don't want to make Mehdi and Zook kind of like caricatures of rock stars. So they are fighting for a rock revolution and stuff like that, but at the same time, they are regular people as you as me. So we put that really into consideration into the way they dress, and the way they act, and usually even during our voice audition, when we have this Mayday character, and I always have to stress to the voice actors, she's not your typical crazy rock chick. She's kind of not, she doesn't go like, we are rocker. She's not that kind of girl. So we definitely want to keep them as human as possible. At the same time, me, I don't really come from a music background, so I do rely on people on like Falk and his team to kind of share their life as a musician. So we try to kind of like sprinkle that through all of the characters, on what are the how are the lives of the heroes and the villains, based on their music genres and stuff.
Awesome. Well, the semi-serious question I wanted to ask was about latency. And rhythm games, latency is one of the most important factors in how the game plays and works. This game, if I'm not mistaken, is scheduled to arrive on the PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. And you've got many different platforms you're developing for, and at least on the PC, you could have one of 20 different sound devices that your end customer may end up using, and you really have no idea until you send the game out in the wild.
Right.
How does that factor into the way you do the underlying sound work or game design to make sure that everything stays responsive, independent of the platform?
I guess like the absolute fail safe is that the game can be played without a sense of rhythm because it is an action game. Like the bosses when the attacks happen on the music itself, and I think generally like sometimes there is a latency built into the stuff that we play, not just rhythm games but action games. And I think another very good example of where the latency for input to action needs to be as low as possible is like fighting games, which is why a lot of people want rollback netcode, for example, in the online portion of these games and all that. And so there is a little bit of leeway until it starts feeling bad to play. And it's very genre specific. Like I said, fighting games are very susceptible to this. Obviously, rhythm games themselves are very susceptible to this as well. But the failsafe is it if all else fails, it can be played as an action game with and then the music you would listen to it more for the form than for the very strict timing of it. You might not be able to parry, or you might just compensate like you do in any other rhythm game with a latency where you just have to press it a little bit earlier. But I guess the question is more of like how we handling all the different specs, right?
Right.
A lot of it is technically out of our hands because we're using Unreal Engine. We do get it to as responses as we can because Hasmir and myself. Sorry, Hasmir, as I mentioned, is a huge rhythm game fan. I'm also actually a huge rhythm game fan, and this really bugs us when it's not snappy. And there's a lot of stuff that we've done with the game which just increases the snappiness of how it's timed. One of the examples I can give is the Parry Mechanic. Originally, it was like I'm not sure how to explain this without being too technical, but I hope it comes across. So, if you have the downbeat and then a time after that, like this is the window of timing, and to successfully parry, it was from the downbeat onwards. But most of us who play rhythm games, it's not like from zero onwards. It's usually like hovering around this 0 point. It could be earlier, it could be later. And what we found is a lot of the time in the heat of the action, we were pressing too early, and the parry failed when we did that. But the rhythm gamer in is just like, okay, this really should the timing window instead of being zero onwards, it should be centered around that. So just stuff like that, and it just comes from what feels good to play, I guguess.
So it's more like you have a window of time rather than just an exact moment in time.
I think it's more like like the iteration here was based on like downbeat onwards. Like when we said, okay, we need a window of this amount of time, we started it at the exact point and then went forward. But the more natural flow of things is to just have it centered on that rather than starting from that. and that actually contributes to if there is a slight latency in people's setups, the fact that it's a little bit more towards both sides of when the exact time is, it helps with that as well.
Okay.
Yeah,
I get it.
and obviously, like we cannot control everyone's system, and that's true for any rhythm game on PC as well. Like we do the best we can, but if people, for example, even if they're using wireless keyboards, that itself includes a little bit of latency, and then monitors with VSync on, that adds a little bit of latency, and then if not mistaken, Windows 10, when you run stuff in borderless window, one of the little quirks of Windows 10 is that actually adds like two frames of latency as well, and that's unavoidable. You could actually turn that off in Windows 7, but Windows 10 was not. So that's actually something I found out while playing rhythm games on Windows 10. It's like, nope, never use borderless windows. Always use full screen, and like that just improved the timing. But all that comes back to we do the best we can, and there's some limitations with Unreal Engine for this kind of precision. But at the same time, we cannot like make it work for everyone, and then a lot of the times the problems are on the users end to solve. And that's very true for both rhythm games and for fighting games as well.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time for the thoughtful explanation. I love it.
Nice. I have a question about the two main characters. Like their designs, were they influenced by like any living musicians or like
I think there's one obvious inspiration that I think a lot of people can pick up is, of course, the gorillas. You know, that's definitely one of them. I mean, just the design alone, it's not.
It's very double finish, like you said before, like very glossy,
Yeah.
very cartoony anime, like that kind of style.
Yeah. We got our inspiration from like even cartoons as well, you know, like Steven Universe or games like Pop and Music and stuff. You know, I think it was a really kind of like a clear decision from the start that, you know, we don't want to make our game not just realistic, but, you know, I mean, we don't want to go that direction at all. But we just want to make it just as colorful as we can, you know. And when we look at cartoons like Steven Universe or even the older cartoons like Doug or something, you know, so they have this. All of the characters have this funky skin colors, and yeah, it was very early decided that that's the direction we feel really that will kind of elevate the whole experience in our game.
Speaking of that, like this kind of game screams like transmedia to me. Like, can you like have you reached out to Netflix for your 9-part animated series? Because I think this is something that fits something like that perfectly.
That would be really cool. Production-wise, I'm not so sure how we're gonna handle that because we don't have the manpower. But
we'll get a meeting. We'll get a meeting for you guys.
It will be really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
it's not hard. I think you just walk in and they hand you a bucket of cash. I'm pretty sure.
Usually it's like a different external team that handles this kind of like adaptations, right? I mean, I can't imagine the Castlevania being done by the people who make Castlevania games.
Exactly.
Like
but even if they make a cartoon series, you know, like is because this is our baby, so we do want to, you know, maintain the story is very important to us, so the integrity of the characters and stuff. So that is something that we don't kind of like give it off freely, you know. So we definitely want to kind of like nurture that within our company, you know.
I also get a Teen Titans vibe as well. The old school Teen Titans.
Exactly. Yeah. On a smaller scale, I think one of our, which is just my personal wish, is that it would be nice to have like lots of figurines based, you know, designed for our characters, you know, like busts or like a diorama or something. That would be really nice.
Yeah.
But
merch, hell yeah!
Yeah, I want a Riot Girl figure that can bust some heads with a guitar. I definitely feel that. I love it. I love that the guitar is a weapon. Like, it's just I always dig that. I always wanted a battle axe guitar.
Exactly, the shape is like a battle axe, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So I can respect that.
Can you guys talk about the title? Because that's such an interesting title. No Straight Road, which we refer to as NSR. Like, how did that title come about? Why did you guys decide on that specific title?
It's actually a very, very, very long story, but I'll try to summarize it to make it less boring.
You were driving, you're like, there are no straight roads, and your partner was like, I've got it.
Well, the history is that before this game was produced, like this is like almost 10 years ago, actually, Haz, me, and our writer ID, and a couple of other people, Yin and Adrian and stuff, we pitched this other game that has nothing to do with this game we have now, So in Malaysia, where we're from, they had this kind of like what do you call that? Like a encouraging the creatives to propose something to the government, and if the concept is strong enough, then they'll get funding from the government to produce their own game or cartoon series or movies. So that was a game that we created last time as a concept. It's about this kind of like a driving game, driving and shooting thingy, and the title for that game was No Straight Roads. And fast forward to like almost 10 years later, and when we're producing this game, of course the title hasn't been decided yet, and out of nowhere, Haz just said, why don't we just call this No Straight Roads as well? I'm like, yeah, sure, okay, why not? That sounds like a good idea. Yeah. So
There
it's
you go.
so kind of like taking that name and kind of like, how do we apply that name into the context of this new world that we have created?
Well, I think you did an excellent job. So, guys, we're coming up on the hour here, so I'm gonna start wrapping things up. Thank you both for coming
Thank
and
you so
talking
much
with
for
us.
having us.
Thank
Where
you.
can folks find out more about No Straight Roads?
You can check our Twitter. It's I'm so bad. Why didn't I prepare this?
We've
I
we
believe
got
it's it's posted in Twitch chat, right? Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so we have a Facebook page, we have also a Twitter page, and also an Instagram page. And we, like Falk said earlier, we are announcing really cool stuff very soon, like the soundtrack that will be released online and stuff. So please do look forward to that.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Well, yeah. Thank you both, Falk, music director on No Straight Roads, Dime, creative director, co-founder of Metronomik Entertainment. This has been a great time. No Straight Roads looks like a lot of fun, and I love getting my groove on no matter what I'm doing. So it definitely appeals to me, especially as a music nerd. So I always appreciate it, and I definitely I've felt like punching some DJs in the face before, so I feel like this is gonna be therapeutic for me at the very least.
Thank you so
So
much. Yeah, that is.
yeah, and then of course Greg Burke, my co-host and video editor at Shacknews.com.
Mm.
I'm Blake Morse, reviews editor, Shacknews.com. Chris Gerard, the man that you can't see. Thank you to him as well for being our de facto technical director. If you like Shack News and what we do, go to shacknews.com and check us out some more. You can subscribe to us through Mercury, for as little as $1 a month. That's less than the cup of coffee a month. That's a lot less than a cup of coffee, let me tell you. And you can pay us more if you want, or you can pay us nothing. You can also follow us here on Twitch if you want. That doesn't cost you a dime. Or if you have Twitch Prime and you don't know what to do with that free sub, give us those sweet Bezos bucks. We love taking money from Jeff Bezos. So, but you don't have to do any of that either. We'll always be here for you, no matter what. So don't freak out. Don't be like, oh my god, I have to give them $5 right now. You could. You'd be really cool if you did, but we're not gonna be like, oh, that guy didn't give us $5 and he's always in the chat. Like, screw him. No, we're not gonna be like that. That's not who we are. That's not shacknews.com. Go to twitter.com/shacknews, facebook.com/shacknews. It's what? Shack News Games on YouTube, right, Greg?
Shacknews games on YouTube. Yep.
There we go. And also Gamer Hub TV on Shack News. So check
Gamer Hub
that.
videos.
Gamer Hub videos. I'm sorry, but it
And
is Gamer Hub.
and our Instagram that I still haven't gotten that platform down, but I'm
Look,
learning.
look, do something with our Instagram, and I'll start plugging it, Greg.
I
How's
am.
that? All right, we'll get to it. Once again, No Straight Roads. Go check it out. Is there going to be a demo or anything like that anytime soon? Is there a demo out now and I'm just stupid?
I am not sure what we are allowed to disclose, Falk. Do you know?
I do not. I would say
All
just
right.
pay
Let's
attention
not
to
keep
the
it.
socials. If there's anything that's coming out in near future, that will be announced there. But we're
Yeah,
not allowed to say anything
Yeah.
about it.
but I can promise that
All right.
things will be announced very soon, in a couple
Okay,
of
Very, very
perfect.
good.
Perfect. I'm sure that is a relief to your PR director. Perfect. All right, guys. Well, thank you again for coming out. We're gonna take off. We'll be back tomorrow with the Shacknews dump, because it's Friday and that's our news show that we do every Friday. So if you want to tune into that, that's at 1 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. 4 p.m. Eastern?
4 p.m. Eastern.
Okay, perfect. That's how we do it. We'll be back tomorrow for that. So we'll see you then. I'll be hosting it. Chris will be there. TJ Denzer will be there, our news editor. And so will others people. We'll have all sorts of surprises. So stop on by tomorrow afternoon. Well, until then, have a great night. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
The name's Mayday. I wield a guitar. And he is.
Zook.
And he plays the.
Drums.
Bunk Bed Junction. That's who we are. And we're here to stop NSR from controlling everything.
There's only one music in demand right now, and that is EDM.
The people of Final City deserve to know what rock is about. It's time we fight EDM with the power of rock. The music revolution starts right now.
I am DJ Subatomic Supernova. What have you done today, simpletons?
You're disrupting our music revolution, man. Let's get this over with. Green light.
Your flying circus ends now, Ten.
Maintain Operation Party all night.
You ready, Zook?
Yeah.